And we don't base the scholarship on the report card, but everyone knows that school is important. So these young ladies did that. And then they get a free registration to the event, and then we put them in an all-women's class with a professional athlete, and then with intermixed with some ladies that join them as well, because they take care of them as well. And they give a nice climbing experience. So what our goal is to have them come back to this event and be our instructors for that event. And we have had success in doing that in the past. So congratulations, ladies. And I think what we'll do is hand out some pads that Mountain Hardware graciously donated. So you can take a photo of that. All right, hold them up. Once again, Bryce, where's Bryce? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mountain Hardware. We're going to take a brief intermission and come back with the one and only Conrad Anker.
Yeah, yeah. I have a copy of that. I'm going to put a nice presentation. I'm going to what I was standing on stage. Wow. That way, when you're talking about I figured probably like most of No, and it's But I think they're keeping it that way because they have No, it's I thought we were gonna be professional, so really. Like Columbus had a So you didn't get the video? Where did you, what's your last page? You know what, I went and looked at it and I said, I gotta go show you. You never got it. What? Tabs open. Is that what my name's gonna be now on? Tabs open. Tabs open, Mr. All, what you say, Sandy? No, that's what you said, but you said my tabs are all malfunctioning. So my tabs are Talking to each other. I know how to reach her. Oh, don't do it there. Yeah. So, you got, you didn't get. You're gonna get trouble. Yeah. Did you? I think it's real. Wait till I can get
All right, let's make our way back to our seats.
Now the rest of the.
All right, just once again, a reminder that we will be doing our legendary raffle right after Conrad's presentation. That's a good stuff you guys got this year. And then we were all going out of the building, turning right, walking a block down to Gallery Coffee Company where the Way Outs and Chris Kalous will be playing tonight. We are always very, very excited to have this next gentleman come up and share our stage. This is probably his second or third time. Like I said, we're not very good with dates, but he brings the show. He is very energetic. He's North America's most, in my opinion, prestige climber, mountaineer, and all-round strong supporter of the climbing community. He is sponsored or brought to us by the North Face, and we very much appreciate all the support they give the Michigan Ice Fest. So a big Michigan Ice Fest welcome for Conrad Aker.
Okay, everyone's gonna stand up. It's Valentine's Day,
I'll stand up.
and you're gonna say hello, hug the person next to you. Get that love, love that love, say it. So our goal there was, this ending stretch to get a little bit of blood circulating.
Everybody sit down for God's sake.
Also, a special shout out to Erica. Please stand up. Erica. Give it up for Scott and Sheena and their slideshow. They do a great job, and Eric and I have been on the slideshow tour together, doing great things here and there. So, but I didn't know that Chris Kalous was the voice of God in the real Chris Uniatis. He's getting ready for the show. He's drinking. So follow the Adoro cast because that's our audio community when it's not ice season and we're not out here. And then also check out ice climbing on Instagram. So picture of Quentin here climbing above the drink with full commitment value. But a real treat to be here on Valentine's Day. All we need in the United States is another holiday so we can eat more candy and send each other cards. So this is the one holiday that we really want to celebrate, that it comes on a Saturday is something else. So, and we always got to remember, the only thing more powerful than hate is love. Give it up for Matt Bunny. He's going to be here next year. Yeah, you got that thing? Yeah. Shout out to my partner Amy on Valentine's Day. She's not with us, but she's here in spirit. So, but check this out. This is out on the East Channel. One of our esteemed members had this. Check this out.
Wait, we gotta get the hell out of here.
We're gonna see that again.
Wait, we gotta get the hell out of here.
This happened today. This is a live sports action. Just so you know, ice is always in a state of flux from minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. But that's what makes it unique, is that it's never going to be the same. So this year, Bill invited Phil Henderson and I to do the seniors crack. So we went out to the Boomer Cliffs. Right, we were at the Boomer Cliffs and a bunch of chrome tops and silverbacks. But Bill is always on the game to bring new sponsors. So for next year, we're bringing in Depends. So this is us with Depends.
Depends. Not just for climbing grade 5 pillars.
So you thought you needed built-in some Depends when you're going to step up to one of those skinny detached pillars? You can wear them at the coffee social. The other big sponsor we got rolling in next year is Geritol. So this is what Geritol does, and we tested it. If you warm it up, it makes you climb faster.
Chase.
Woo! Yeah!
The benefits of warm Geritol speak for themselves.
Okay, obviously that stuff's AI, and would have wasted a few gallons of water to bring that in here, but a little bit of humor goes a long ways, and that's a good thing here. But really, we're having a slideshow here where I'm going to talk and attempt not to put you to sleep, but the essential question of what we do out here as friends. We all know the community, the bond that it brings together. You belay someone to become your friend, and then you've got something in there. But at the root of that is this philosophy from Camus. Whether or not one can live with one's passion and accept its law, which is to burn the heart, it simultaneously exalts. That is the question. So WTF, do we do this stuff and we know that these ice climbers are gonna fall down, we could lose friends, we've all been through that. But yet we still come back to it, we still want to do it. I'm not gonna answer that question this evening, no way. I'm gonna give you a little bit of background on where I am and how I got here. So my father's side of the family is from Big Oak Flat, California, and this is my grandmother and grandfather, Joe and Marge. They ran a little restaurant. My siblings are still there, and Joe was a lineman for Hetch Water and Power. And his idea of a good day was to drive from Big Oak Flat an hour into Yosemite Valley. And what he would do is he would find the other maintenance guys and come up and like shoot the music for like clearing logs. Oh, yeah, that's great. You got your tracker in there or something like that. Always with the pen protector and tie. So props to them. And then my dad, he grew up there and was in the service, met my mom. She's from East Germany. And so obviously in this photograph, he's like, we're gonna go up in the mountains in the Sierras with mules and donkeys and go camping with the kids every summer. And we're gonna build character. And you can tell by my mother's expression, she's like, I don't want any more mosquito bites. I just wanna get out there and go and have fun. So this is what we did. This is Dana Peak, the highest point in Tuolumne County. It was sometime in 72, it was in October of 72. That's just when my dad got the film developed. After there was film, pre-digital, phone, computer, everything else. It's now a rabbit warren. But these were the finest days in my youth when we could still line up like accordions. And we'd get out there with in the backcountry. And when we were kids, my parents put me in lederhosen, which were really cool because you could slide on the snow. They didn't need to be washed. But of course, when I became a teenager, I became too self-conscious. I really wasn't able to sort of embody the energy of lederhosen. Maybe they'll come back. The Hoover Brothers did the marketing style. But this simultaneously, the 60s and 70s, each climbing area around the world has its golden age. In the 60s and 70s, it was Yosemite. Royal Robbins, Yvon Chouinard, Warren Harding, all these great legends climbed in Yosemite, and they pushed the boundary of what was possible. And it was what we could do on these granite walls and then apply them to the greater ranges. That was the idea. But this also simultaneously coincided with the 60s and the Summer of Love. And guess what happened there? Well, the Grateful Dead, obviously, but it was a really important part because climbing had been, for what it is, it's sort of like this bastion of imperialism and colonialism and going and climbing the mountains and guys that look like me. And we changed that narrative to make climbing more open to more people. And that essence of a red point ascent then went back to Europe, and then they adopted that in the free climbing, and that really changed things. And so that combination of Yosemite and the 60s getting in there at the same time was pretty important. So this is a few years later. I progressed to blue jeans, plaid shirts, and waffle stompers, and my dad's still rocking the lederhosen, my siblings, but you can tell by the look on my face, I'm in the red shirt there, that I obviously know everything. And of course, that's what your teenagers are like, right? They don't have to have anyone to tell you what to do. You know it all. But this is what we do. We'd get rid of mosquitoes, and we had tarps. We didn't have tents, and we'd spend 2 weeks suffering in the back of the mountains. And but that was my happy place. Team sports weren't necessarily my jam. I had a great scoutmaster that was convinced that we were all turning in a bunch of candy acid. And it was his job, darn it, to put some grit into us. And so we got out there and learned how to hit belay with 12-line rope and through the crotch belays and all that stuff. And yeah, this is what it was like. And this was my origin with TNF. I had to get like the best down jacket and waffle stompers. Those were hiking boots. The boomers in here, we still remember those terms. So, but that was what it was like, and they a lot of innovative ideas that were in there. But then again, coinciding with the energy of the '60s, and so Billy Westbay, John Long, and Jim Bridwell climbing the Nose in the Day, which was pretty groundbreaking to climb 3,000 feet of pure granite in a really quick time. But these moments spent in the Sierra High Country and sort of understanding what the weather could do, the importance of having shelter in the afternoon was a really key part to it. And that was sort of the foundation. So on El Cap, which is one of the most stunning pieces of rock with great weather, that was sort of my training ground and what we did. Of course, back then we used HVAs, knee pads, and we didn't wear helmets. This is a Lake Gale Row on the nose and then climbing up on the other things there. So fascinating to believe that it's been climbed without a rope. Thank you, Alex Honnold. And on TV and movies and things like that, he's gone on to climb buildings. But it's kind of an indication of how much this sport has changed and how much it's grown. I went to school in Salt Lake City at the University of Utah, and while I was there, I had a mentor. His name was Mug Stump, and he had played football at Penn State with Joe Paterno, and he was a motivated football player. Made it to semi-pro. He was with the Neptune Mariners, even if they're in existence anymore, and then ended up going to the Dallas Cowboys training camp. Rolled in there in his van. He said, "I'm done with this." And he drove straight out to Utah. It was the first year that Snowbird Ski Resort was in the process of opening up. He lived in the Midgad restaurant, and that was the end of the story. But he was a great mentor to me. 14 years, my senior, someone that gave me the vote of confidence and showed me the ropes quite literally and figuratively what it was like to be a mountaineer and to be outdoors. And I always cherish these memories, and I honor those that have come before us and those that come after us. And so we set out on 2 different occasions to try to climb the Eye-Tooth. A little bit of a story about the Beartooth with Jackson Marble this morning, but one of the iconic peaks in the range there. And again, we were too cool for helmets. We wore knee pads, what were we thinking? But eventually we put our helmets on, and Muggs and I tried this in April of 1989. We had no success. We ended up spending 8 nights in the Portaledge as it snowed about 9 feet in the central Alaska range. And for Muggs, this was all part of the story. He's like, "Yeah, we just got to hang here, get constipated, get enlightened." I'm like, "Damn, this is too much." So if you've ever spent 5 days in the Portaledge not eating anything after 5 days and you have a cup of coffee, it's like passing river students. Now it's like, but this is enlightenment. I don't know if that's where I want to be. I'm getting lighter, but not quite necessarily in the sense that I wanted to. But Muggs' energy was always there. He had this van, a panel van, and Kinaloa used to make chalk bags. So any of the old timers here remember Kinaloa gear? At least one person got to hold up their hand. There we go. Bruce Bottinger, Kinaloa gear. He had this ain't no weenie roast. And so Muggs had that painted on the side of his van. I was like, "Damn it, Muggs, that thing is sheriff baby." It's like, well, so what? But he left me with a dream. He had tried to speak 2 times with Steve Quinlan in 1988. The same time I was over in India with him, we traveled. I went to a couple valleys over, and he had no success, and ended up being really sort of a key part to his identity that he then passed on to me. And that's something that wherever we are, we have this commonality of thread. So 30 plus years ago in the early 90s, my goal was to climb the 3 principal towers of the Serratori group. And of course, now they've been done in a push, in a day, in every which way, of course, by Honnold and Colin Haley and those guys that are incredibly strong. But we climbed Torjäger and just got pummeled by the weather. So, but eventually, after a couple expeditions, succeeded in climbing the route Badlands with Steve Green and Jay Smith and Serratori there in the background. And it was, back when we had plastic neon boots. One other story about Denali is working at base camp there. And this is a late Cliff Hudson, 90 X-ray. That was his Cessna 185 with retractable skis, and he'd fly that in there. He loved that airplane because it didn't have any paint. That meant it was 30 pounds lighter, which is 30 pounds more of carabiners and peanut butter bars that we could haul into the mountains and go eat frugally with. But this one year that I was there at camp, it was the year that the Soviet Empire and communism imploded. There was this great team from Poland. You know, the Poles are, those guys wake up in the morning and they're like cold gravel, cold water. They are tough. And so this big Polish team rolls into town. They're going to do the Czech Direct. They're going to do the Casino Day. Like, they're going to splinter off and do all these things. And they had this gentleman who was with them. And they're like, can you watch over our buddy? And he's just like our senior guy. No, he's like our good luck token guy that he's going to be in base camp. So he and I just posted up, and he would, it was when we had Pope John Paul, the Polish Pope, and he made a creche or something like that. He taught me how to pray. And we just hung out together for a period of 2 weeks while the hard men and women went up there and did everything in good style and pastor style. But one of the key parts to being in Alaska is the ability to fester, which means that you just sit around and you do nothing. This is Gordy Kito from Alaska, Anchorage, and he's worked as a guide up there. We worked together, and then he is now works in the National Park Service and is there. So he's representing climbers, especially climbers working on their dynasty beards. But some of the best times I've had in Alaska were the ones where I had the least amount of gear and the least amount of stuff to go in there with. And on this one expedition, Seth Shaw, who was a climber out of Salt Lake, he and I, several trips to the Alaska Range. And like a few of my friends that have gone on to the other side, whether there's a side or not is not the same question. It does sort of reminds us of the severity of it. And in the 90s, my closest climbing partner was Alex Lowe, and he and I had shared the rope together, and we were similar height, similar size, similar energy, similar motivation. And it was Alex who did the first descent of the Fang, this photographed by Jenny Lowe, and so this was before they hung chains on it and curved tools and drew picks. And so we just put your hands in the handcuffs and turned off the mind and went to the top. But also mixed climbing, you know, where you can find it, climbing here in New England with a piece of gear and transferring over onto the bit of ice. And Alex and I we were fast partners. And when you play this game of high mountain climbing, in your 30s is your peak decade. You have the experience, you have the strength, you have the knowledge, and if you're going to go to the great mountains and the great ranges, that's when you go. So we see these wonderful expeditions that have pulled through it. And Alex and I had done a bunch of ones. We're going to flash back here. I got a picture out of place there, but we love the group. Well, Alex and I, one of our most memorable expeditions was to Queen Maud Land in Antarctica. And we went there the austral summer of 1996, 97, and climbed this granite spire, Rakkaneven, which means the rock raiser in Norwegian. And it was a real opportunity to get down there and to climb in this inhospitable yet remote place and to share these stories. And it was an expedition that was close to my heart and was really special. That was in 96, 97. At the time, Alex and I were climbing together. I was probably on expedition 9 months a year, but I was kind of living out of the back of my van, going climbing, living the dream. But Alex had it going on. He was married with 3 kids, and it was on a really tough expedition that we had gone to in Shishapangma when an avalanche came down and swept Alex away, and leaving Jenny and the 3 boys there. And the aftermath of that, Jenny and I grew in love, and we dedicated our program to working in the mountains with the Khumbu Climbing Center here at Bois Arc, and 2004, and the first year that we went over there. And the boys are now grown up, 36, 32, and 29, and we're all together, happy as a family. And though Jenny and I are not married, we have a lot of respect for each other and the good work that we've been able to pull together. But the community that we get out of this is the late Tom Hornbein, who and Jack Tackle, who had climbed the west ridge of Mount Everest. Moments like these, we'll have a snapshot that we can remember them. Those are always the ones that stay with us the most, the people that we have, the people that are close to us. So from here, I'm going to digress for a little bit and go to the other side of the planet to Nepal and talk about Mount Everest. And I had started climbing in the Himalayas in 1988, and in 1999, with 2 weeks to go, I was invited to go on an expedition to Mount Everest to look for these two gentlemen in the top left portion of this image, Sandy Irvine and George Lee Mallory. And I was like, oh, this is great. I always wanted to go to Everest. I didn't have the skills or the patience to be a guide, but this seemed like a good thing. And my job was to have a go at the second step, which is a 90-foot tall cliff man at 28,300 feet that George Mallory and Sandy Irvine would have had to have climbed had they made the summit on the 8th of June, 1924. And so, in an odd way, I kind of got wrapped up in history. And, well, we know unequivocally that Tenzing Norgay and Sir Ed Hillary summited on the 29th of May, 1953. There was always this question, could they have made it? And when we see this photograph of the two of them, and people ask, why do you climb? Well, look at the smiles between these two gentlemen. And this is after they had summited, they were on their way out, and people had around the world were celebrating if they could have made it or not. And this iconic photograph, taken by Ed Hillary of Tenzing Norgay, is emblematic in a bunch of different ways. We think about it. There's no detritus on the summit. Now there's horseshoes and chocolate bars and prayer flags and whatever else memento people are going to haul up there and leave for their own personal vainglory. But at this time, there wasn't anyone there. And if you look at Tenzing Norgay, he's got his laser goggles on and he has an oxygen apparatus. And that to me is sort of like an indicator you're out of this world. Because it was only 16 years later, from 1953 to 1969, that humans were then able to get on the moon and to land on the moon. So we think about that generational shift in just 16 years from climbing a mountain, which is pedestrian, quotidian, something we can all identify, to flying the lunar module with less computer power than we have in our standard phone in all of our pockets, let alone this room, landing it with the tip of a ballpoint pen. So the moxie it took them to do that is something that really impacted my generation and the ways in which I looked at it. The question whether or not George Mallory and Sandy Irvine made it to the summit is, we'll never know. Obviously, getting back safe and sound is the true measure of success. I mean, if you perish in the process of it, it was all for naught. But could they have made it to the summit some 29 years before Ed Hillary and Tenzing Norgay? So came back in 2007 with Leo Holding. So this is Leo and I in period clothing, and we were like, okay, we're going to do this. We got up to 7,000 meters, which is about 23,000 feet, in cotton and wool and leather boots and everything like that. And as long as we kept moving, we were warm. But as soon as we stopped, we didn't have that static insulation that a down suit or something gives you. We would get really cold. And Leo was great. He was the same age, younger than I was, to Sandy Irvine, to George Mallory, and he'd never been up on a big mountain like that. And we got to 7,000 meters, and the director's like, well, do you think you can go to the summit in these clothes? And I'm like, well, the clothes, maybe, but boots definitely not. And he was like, well, we can just put the boots on and we'll spray paint them to make them look like leather boots. And I was like, no. So the thing about climbers is we know what's real and what's not real and when it's phony. So respect for them trying to climb it in the clothing they had, but certainly most appreciative for the down clothing and everything that kept us warm. Leo and there on the summit, and then along with our my Nepali friends that have been a part of this, and so they're all these moments where I get to share them. So the people of Nepal on these expeditions have been a really important part of who I am, and having gone to Everest for sort of work-related things, it's always in my way to give something back. And this black and white photograph taken in 1956 by the reconnaissance expedition for the U.S. trip, we contrast that to where we are today, and we can just going back and forth between them. If you look at the lower part there with you see the rock there, and how much of the ice that's hanging there. Yeah, so climate change is super real. It's super happening. We're fortunate to have a good winter here. It was a winter or two ago that we had to close things up because it was so warm. Those things are going to be happening more and more, and it's a change that is very real. And we as climbers, people outdoors, we experience nature. When it's warm, ice climbing can be dangerous, or if it's really cold, it can be really hard and troublesome. But it's not like we're in a controlled environment or we're on a chemically enhanced lawn chasing white walls with sticks. I love golfing, but you don't really have like a feel of what nature is. And so can't do a slideshow talking about the mountains without giving the mountains some props and respect. But when I first went to Everest, my previous expedition starting in 1988, they were all small teams. It would be 2 or 3 of us. We'd find some local people to help us out, work and staff, cooking, watch over our camp, and we'd go do a climb and come back. But in 99, the film project, working on the north side of Everest, I saw the work that the Nepalis, specifically the Sherpa, do for people on top of the mountains, and the change and how that affects them and what it's like. And so this photograph here of Taku Sherpa gave me an idea to look into it. But the reality of it is Everest is big business. It generates over $20 million a year in peak fees for the government of Nepal, and employs a tremendous amount of people, but it's also really dangerous work. And anytime we outsource danger for money, whether it's working in a mine or being a shipbreaker in Bangladesh where they unweld ships to get recycled, or deep water welding like Jackson does, anytime you're like doing risk for someone else, you should be compensated. You should also have the skills necessary to do it. And for the Nepalis, the motivation is really clear. It's what's on the table. It's called money. Money is what solves problems, but it's also a problem within itself. But I realized that where I had 20 years of climbing, I'd gone through apprenticeships, I'd had mentors, I had all this great ways to learn how to be a better and safer climber. A lot of these were happenstance. So, hey, my uncle had the same size boots. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to carry 30 kg through the ice fall, which is a pretty dangerous place. And that the downside of that is that it has a real effect on the local communities. This woman is a widow. Her husband perished climbing in the mountains. And so there's a responsibility that comes on our shoulders, especially someone like myself, who's made a career and a living out of being in the mountains and being with these people and seeing this very real effect. And then also by the same measure, seeing our community reach out after Alex's death and how that had changed that. And so there's, and spending time in the Kumbu, in the Rowalling, in the Makalu valleys, there's not a family there that hasn't had some degree of loss, whether immediate or by relation, from people working in the mountains. And that was sort of the wake-up call, like, what can we do to make things better? And the idea came was to use ice climbing, like we have here, as a way to train in the mountains. And that was the idea for the Kumbu Climbing Center, which is vocational training for high altitude workers and climbers, so primarily climbers and people that work in the mountains, to make it safer for them. And so we're just completed our 22nd year this past January. We've had over 1,600 students graduate from the program, and it's all about friendship and mentorship, learning another language, communicating with them, trying to understand what their needs are, and being able to work together. And those are, to me, the meaningful part of it. And also how eager and excited our students that we have that are in there. So whether it's learning to set up rescue systems, or then having a dry erase board for your earnest anglers, equalized, the right angle, redundant, no extension, strong and timely. So yeah, this is Galje Serpa. He has his badge. He's a BMW. A patch of anything. But it also includes work with advanced first aid. So they learn how to care for people that are injured in the mountains using the equipment that we standardly have, like when you're on expedition. How can you better use those things? How can you make them in a better way? And then mountain environment lessons, ways in which that they can run with it. And then this year we had 28 women as part of our program. So it was the greatest amount of women we've had attend out of a group of 70 students. So thank you. Big clap. So, in Nepal, working in the mountains is a men's game, but women want to climb for the sake of climbing. And so rather than it just being, I signed up to the class so I can become a better mountain guide, I can learn to be safe in the mountains, I can learn how to run my things like that. People want to learn how to climb. And people, especially Nepalis, they want to climb for fun. And this narrative like, oh, I did it because I had no other choice, and it was what I was born into, and things like that, that might still apply, but there's a lot of them that want to wake up in the morning and go send, right? So I think everyone in this building wakes up in the morning and wants to go send. Am I correct? Yeah. So we're here for the send. But the women, the wives and the daughters, the aunts, the grandmothers of the climbers in there, they understand that their men go into the mountains. It's income for them. Otherwise, it's trading and subsistence farming, and they're able to earn money. But they also know how dangerous it is, and that is a big part of it. So this is Nima Sona, and he is probably within a few years of my age. I'm 63. But he and I have worked on expeditions going back to 2002. And he shows up every year at the Kumbu Climbing Center. He makes these big cauldrons with cases of top ramen. So we'll have communal top ramen soup together. So it's very much in a different way in the way in which we run that. So Daoyongzum Sherpa, who is from Rowalling, became the first Nepali to climb the 14 8,000 meter peaks. He's here with one of her cousins on the summit of, I think this is Manasu. but I'm pretty stoked for it and the overall goodwill. One of the benefits of traveling is that you see the world from a different vantage point. And this is a Sadhu in the Gangotri region, so the source of the Ganga River, which is where Meru, the peak, is in the background. Jimmy Chin and Renan, Ozturk, and I came to climb. We came to this holy man, and we're like, hey, is it cool if we go climb Meru? And wherever you go, ask the locals, whether it's indigenous people in the United States, Native Americans with their sacred sites in the Southwest, or Great Horn Butte, Cave Bear Lodge, otherwise known as Devil's Tower, Mount Uluru in central Australia, places like that. You always want to check, and it's not just for the big heavy things like religion and that, it's also for like local ethics. So like if I came up to Munising, I started dry tooling on the sandstone that you have here. No, you guys would be chasing me out of town because I'd be like manufacturing holes. We know the rock is soft, it's not what it's meant to be, but climbing pillar to pillar is something in there. That's something that is always important to me. It's not just one of these things where treat other people as I would like to be treated. Treat them as they would like to be treated. And that takes a moment of learning and understanding who they are. And they might not see the world in the same way that you do. Because if it's just like how I want to treat the world, there's a lot of different views out there. And we know that, we see that. But when you accept someone else and you learn where they're coming from, what's important to them, how to communicate with them, we become better people. And in the process of traveling to these wild places for the sake of climbing, I've always come back with these moments where I have a greater appreciation for other people, an understanding for my own weaknesses and challenges, and then a way to kind of move and go forward with that. These two photographs are from Meru. I'm not going to do a Meru slideshow. You can stream it on Netflix. Yeah, well, for the views and other things like that. So, and that the Meru climb was my life work. I finished it up at age 49. It was something that Muggs had dreamed about. He shared that passion with me. It was up to me to finish it, and when we got to the summit, I then passed the rope on to Jimmy, unknowing that I was just like, hey, Jimmy, it's your turn. You go first, I'm gonna go last. I'm gonna open the door for you. But it became this theme in the film Meru about mentorship and passing on knowledge from one generation to the next. And if there really is one activity and sport that we do here, climbing is that. Because you literally have to show someone the ropes. When you put someone on belay, your life is in their hands. You drop the rope, I'm gonna break my ankle. You don't want to have to live with that the rest of your life. So you bet your 6-pack of root beer, you're gonna be holding on to that rope super tough. So that combination, that connection you have between humans is a pretty stellar thing. 2002, an expedition to the plateau of Tibet, and it was a really wonderful trip. Rick Ridgway and Galen Rowell, two of my elders, 10, 15 years older than I am, had invited me along, and our goal was to study the Tibetan antelope and to suggest a nature preserve to the Chinese there. David Brashears was going to be our fourth person. He couldn't come due to scheduling challenges, and so I invited along Jimmy Chin, who was totally psyched and motivated for it, and it was Galen's last expedition, but Galen had taken his knowledge of being the preeminent outdoor nature photographer and sports action and all that stuff, and he'd taken that knowledge and passed it on to Jimmy, and it was a really selfless thing. We didn't know that only a few months later that he would be losing his life in a plane crash. But it was the four of us. We had these modified yard carts We walked 270 miles across the Tibetan Plateau looking for these, for the antelope. We didn't find them. We found their calving ground. We documented. We counted how many we saw. We took photographic evidence. We brought that back to George Schaller and the naturalists who were working with the Chinese Parks and Forestry Department. They were able to make this a nature preserve, which was something fun, but it was also, it was first class suffering. We ran out of food, we got flat tires. Every day we had to find water, and it was the water we found was brackish and salty, and so I can still think of the taste of it in my mouth. But that book is chronicled in The Big Open by Rick Richmond. If you are of the literary bent and you want to learn more about it. So we're here in community, and this is at the Ouray Ice Festival a few years back. Look at that, I'm still wearing the same glasses, but the gentleman on the right-hand side of the screen is the late Jim Bridwell, and I'm always like, yeah, I got Jim Bridwell DNA in my climbing style. So Bridwell was a hellraiser. And a good time. This is at the Ouray Ice Festival, and he's like, hey, I'm driving out, Conrad, can I crash on your floor? I'm like, you got it, man. So we had the Blue House next to the hot springs, and Bridwell was in there. It was like royalty had come and descended upon us. So, and he was, in this instance, he came and it was like, he was signing posters. He was signing my posters. He was just psyched to be part of the mix and to see the next generation of youngsters getting there and get in the mix with them. In a similar way, Tom Frost here with Alex Arnold. Tom Frost in the clean climbing revolution and creating ice tools with bent picks and a lot of things that he had done. And for Tom to sort of connect with Alex and to see what the future would hold. And Tom has subsequently passed away, but I always think that this day where we sat in El Cap Meadow staring up at El Cap, and it was before Alex's big plot was out there. These are 4 Sherpa that I've worked with that are all my age. Now the Sherpa that are working in the mountains are in their 20s, 30s, and middle age like that. But these gentlemen and I, we all worked in the 90s and the aughts up on the mountain, and they're still climbers, but they're grateful that there's that we're able to give back to the community with them, and that at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Our oldest son, Max, this is Max and I on our 2012 expedition. Sam Elias was on that trip. We climbed Everest, and it was, yeah, Everest is, it's like, maybe it's like going to Dryer Hose on a busy day sometimes. But Steve Swenson and Alex Lowe, the Talkeetna Ranger Station. And it's moments like these, and I've had them here at the event. Will and his daughter Abba came up to me. We met them 2 or 3 years ago. Abba was this big, now she's this big. Will and I got a chance to go out climbing on Thursday, which was a real treat. And so when you come back and you have these moments where you're there doing it. This is Sam there in the back with his cap on. You gotta stand up, Sam, to see this picture. You can't see the whole thing, but with Malik, Manoa, and Jimmy, and myself, all of us climbing the Grand Teton. And yeah, the 5 of us being on the summit of the Grand Teton was it was a pretty special moment, because it was, for Malik, it was really outside of his comfort zone. A young man from South Memphis. We got to know each other through Memphis Rocks. We created Black Ice Film, and then to go on into the mountains and to try something bigger and greater. Yeah, more industry homies here. Chris Sharma over on the left. He's going to be competing for the Olympics. Let's go, Chris. We all know what Chris's secret weapon is. strongest hand, no, strongest hands around. So that doesn't help me a lot. Beaver started Prana Clothing and has been, he did the No Fear t-shirt. So one of our friends that's been in the outdoor business for a long time, and David Holbrook there with it. Renan and David Lama, being able to connect with those guys, my connection to David over the time, and the 3 expeditions that we've done together, and the joy that we've gotten out of that. And then, of course, Peter Croft. We gotta have a shout out for him. So, this guy is the climber's climber, and he knows what his limit is and what he's doing. And so, 20, 30 years ago, when he would solo Rostrum and Astro Man, we were all left in awe, our hands sweating. But he took that knowledge, he got it better, he improved it, and then we are where we are today with the people that are out there climbing without a rope. Well, parting thought, embrace the madness. Ow! Yeah! There we go. Thank you so much. Raffles. 5 minutes of Q&A, or you guys want to go raffle? Q&A, all right. First question up. Shout it out, I'll repeat it, but I won't translate it.
How's the teacher?
Next thing with the Kupu Climbing Center, we are going to go into year 23. We'll have, we're splitting the basic to the advanced group, so we have 2 more groups with that. So that's continuing along. We have permission from the Nepali government to operate. So if you're interested, you can learn more at the Juniper Fund. They are our physical sponsor. And if you really want to help out the Kupu Climbing Center, and you are a climber, and you are in the audience, I have a very limited amount of the finest ice cream holders, and all you have to do is Venmo Juniper Fund $50. I'll autograph them for you if you want them. But these are really simple ice cream pouches. They hold the dust and they keep your threads from banging one on the next. So thank you for the prompt question. I've got a handful of them here. We sell them all. That's money to go help out vocational training for people in Nepal. So thank you for that question. Next up. There's non-athletic hobbies, yes. I'm an avid reader. I paint watercolor. I play the spelling bee on New York Times. I don't do spelling bees my game. What else do I do? Yeah, writing. Oh, I engrave. Thank you, Sam. That's an art form. I always thought that was like just like something I did to keep my gardening tools separate from my neighbors. So things like that, but mostly hanging out with friends and being in community. Cooking, which is always good, so I like those aspects there. In the back, I gotcha. Most difficult journey. The climb of Meru was difficult from technical standpoint. Everest is the most suffering. It's not hard. You just put your head in the vise, and this elephant steps on the vise, and you just feel more and more effed up. And then you get un-effed up, and you get down, and you're like, why did I do that? What did I do that for? But typically, it's amazing. But emotionally, the hardest journey is always the continual accepting the fact that what we do is a very dangerous sport. I mean, that's why we saw the video of guys falling down. Things happen here, and we need to be out there for each other. And it's this moment where if you've been in the sport long enough, and like PK here, if you've been around long enough, you've been through loss. And it's gonna happen to you because we accept the value proposition of these extreme sports, and that comes with risk. And so when something like that does happen, you are there for your community and you reach out and help them. So technical difficulty, physical pain, and emotional suffering, those are the three hard ones. We got another question here in the audience. Oh, they're in the back, yeah.
How do you go about finding a mentor for mountain swimming in the Midwest?
Yeah, finding a mentor in the mountains when you need to become the mentor to someone else, and then they're going to be flocking to you. But we've got mentorship happening here at Michigan Ice Festival. A lot of the instructors that I've worked with over the years are out here. But find the community there. See Facebook and social media, you can reach out. I mean, those things they're not what we thought they were in 2007. We know how caustic and toxic they can be, but for the right way, we can also become friends and we can learn from them. So, but then make a pilgrimage out to a mountain that you'd like to go climb, whether it's in the Wind Rivers, Colorado Rocky Mountain National Park, and then find a community that every week you get together, you climb the climbing gym, and you share YouTube videos on instruction on how to be a better climber. So, yeah, we wish you the best, and we hope to see you again here next year. And speaking of that, Brandon from Central Illinois, are you in the audience here? Here's Brandon. Stand up, please. So we got to welcome Brandon to the climbing world. So yesterday, I was on the bus back from my clinic to go do the engraving, and the bus was empty, and it was Brandon and I. And the bus driver was like, he wasn't going to stop for me because I wasn't at the official stop sign. So I stood in the middle. I'm like, no, you're stopping now. And I get in, and Brandon's in the vehicle, and he had no idea who I was. This is his first time ever going ice climbing. And he's like, this is better than a snowboard vacation. Did you climb today? You did. Do you like it? Yeah. Look at that smile. Give it up for Brandon. First time ever. Yeah, he was stoked, and look at that. He found his tribe. He found his community. We welcome you, Riverside Down. It's amazing. He's glad he's here. Thank you so much. Couple more questions. Yeah, in the back, please.
Is this the best ice fest you've been to so far?
Oh yeah, this is the best ice festival. Of course, yeah. Couple things that make it good. One is people like yourself and your dad that have been coming here, and it's like we do these timestamp photographs where Junior's growing, I'm shrinking, my hair is going off my head, going up my nose, and going on my back. But you're the next one. The other thing that made this year really good is that we had a banner year. We can't count on it every year, but when it happens, and you can snow machine out to Grand Island and climb on the East Shore there, that's something else. So there's a really good thing, and we'll make next year as good as ever. We've got another question back here. Yeah. My biggest achievement. Oh my God. This sounds like confession, only worse. No, I don't know. Just being there for the community and being there with our friends and an ongoing thing. And I had no idea that this was gonna be my life. I mean, at age 14, I was like, okay, whatever I do in life, I'm just gonna climb as much as I can. So I was like, if I had to be a carpenter, or if I had to do whatever I do, I was gonna just climb all day long. And I knew that at age 14. So when you hear your calling and you can listen to it and you can follow it, that's a really good thing. So there's no greatest achievement that's yet to come. So be optimistic, live tomorrow. Okay, 2 more questions.
When can we expect you to set the new speed record on goldfish?
The new speed record on goldfish.
Yeah.
Where is goldfish?
That's even more funny. On Beirut, that the French and
Oh, yes, yeah, Mateo, yeah, great slideshow with Mateo, if you saw it here the night before last, on the, on climbing on, no, I'm not gonna set a speed record. No, hey, if I can go to base camp and like make tea for Matt Cornell and Jackson Marble, I'm good. I don't need to be up there like, hey, I'm up there with you guys, huh? And they're like, I climb with Jackson today, he plays one screw. I play six. It still felt run out, so there is a difference. One more question, yes.
What are you working on next?
Working on next, oh gosh. Always got a project, right? When you're a climber, you've got like something you bolted or something like that, but, yeah, I think we're all working on the same thing and our hearts are all in the same place and it's nothing that is really climbing related, but if we think in the right way, we're gonna create good positive change. And I think that we all have a responsibility along those lines. There's one last question. Someone had their hand up.
How do you maintain relationships and do epic shit?
Oh, man. They have podcasts for that kind of stuff. Relationship and maintain. Well, I'm not basically that my partners, if I don't go climbing, I go crazy. And they're like, oh, I hear the mountains. Time for you to get out. Go climb. Go talk to your therapist. My therapist is gravity because it never lets you down. So, give it up for Bill. So we got some no-so patches here. And I'm gonna toss them out to the audience, but they're not sharp, you won't get hurt. So if you're not into the raffle, you can go out and stand outside. But if you have a raffle, get your tickets out because this literally is a mountain of sweat.